Hey everyone, welcome back to John's Watch. Today I'm taking a look at the latest Star Wars game. This is Star Wars Outlaws. This was released on August 30th, 2024. The regular price for the standard edition is $90 Canadian, or regional equivalent. There's also a gold edition, which comes with the season pass for 145 Canadian, or the ultimate edition, which comes with the season pass and some in-game skins and stuff for $170 Canadian. But what's interesting to note is that the Ultimate Edition, the $170 version, is actually included in the Ubisoft Plus subscription model. So theoretically, if you were only interested in this game and you wanted to do it in about a month, you could beat it for $20, which is kind of interesting. This is the first ever open world Star Wars game. It's set between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. That's movies 5 and 6 from the original trilogy. And it's developed by Massive Entertainment and published by Ubisoft. Massive Entertainment also worked on The Division and the new Avatar game that I took a look at last year, Frontiers of Pandora, something like that. Frontiers of Pandora was basically just Far Cry, but with an Avatar coat of paint over top of it. So, I was interested in Star Wars Outlaws. Didn't have the highest hopes, but I do like a lot of Ubisoft games, just some of them have kind of fallen off for me recently. The Far Cry series, especially, and the Avatar one did not click with me. So I was pleasantly surprised that this is actually a very, very fun game. I've played just under 7 hours so far. It's apparently not an overly long game, it's not super bloated. Like something like Assassin's Creed Valhalla is probably one of the most famous examples of a heavily bloated game, where I think even just to do the main story, you're still looking at like 70 plus hours or something. And it sounds like if you just want to play the main story for Star Wars Outlaws, it'll only take about 15 hours. If you do the side quests as well, only about 22 hours. And as someone who's put in, 7 hours so far, that sounds very manageable, and I think I'll probably finish playing it at some point. In this game you play as Kay Vess. She's kind of like a petty thief at the start of the game. She's decently well known in the small town on this small planet that she's in. People know her, and she does odd, kind of less than legal jobs to make a bit of money. But eventually, she kind of bites off more than she can chew, and things go wrong, and she ends up having to run away from the starting planet, and she has a bounty on her head and she's on the run, so she needs to do all sorts of things to kind of stay ahead of the bounty hunters. And you really do play as the titular outlaw. You fall in with different crime syndicates. You do all sorts of crime-related activities. As you're exploring the map, sometimes you'll come across a bunch of pirates have stolen Imperial supplies, and so you can just hang back and you wait for the Imperials to land, and they rush in, the stormtroopers rush in and kill off all the pirates. And then it's your job to sneak in and re-steal the supplies for yourself. So you are absolutely an outlaw, you are a thief, but most of the people you're fighting are typically the Imperials, the stormtroopers, the space Nazis, so, you're not really that bad. Kay is accompanied by her little furry companion Nix, who is apparently a Mercal. I don't know enough about Star Wars to know many of the races or anything, but Nix is very, very cute, is a wonderful companion, chirps along as Kay is like talking to herself. But Nix also has many gameplay elements to him. I played on PC, and pretty much if you hold down the Q key, you trigger sort of like, your Nix vision, and it gives you a bunch of options for what Nix can do. Nix can steal from NPCs. Nix can push buttons for you that maybe Kay can't reach. Nix can crawl through tiny little ducts into rooms and open them up for Kay to go into. Nix can bring guns to you. Nix can bring ammo and healing to you, like grenades. Nix can even distract enemies. You can send him out and he'll flop around on the floor to distract enemies. He can even jump up onto enemies' faces and attack them for you, and when he's attacking them, you basically rush over and just melee the person that's being attacked to death, or to unconsciousness at least. So yeah, Nyx is awesome, and there's some really quite creative gameplay elements around Nyx, I think. Like I said earlier, this is an open world game. It seems a little bit scaled back compared to other Ubisoft open world games. Right now, where I am in the story, I'm still on the first planet. It does sound like you're able to, once you've upgraded your ship and progressed far enough in the story, you're able to fly to different planets. And I've even left the first planet so far, but was only able to fly around in space and visit like space stations, and you can do that. You can travel around in space. It feels really good, feels really satisfying. It's actually satisfying to fly in space, and it definitely made me think a little bit of how disappointing Starfield was in every possible way. So yeah, I've only seen the first planet so far. I believe there are 4 more planets after, or as well as the first one. But the first one is, you know, it's a good size, but it's definitely not too big. You also get a land speeder, little bike, space bike kind of thing, and you can zip across the planet, the world pretty quickly, which is good. You know, there's still lots of things to discover. You can find like treasure caches and stuff like that, and random contract quests. But it's definitely, you know, it's definitely not bloated at that point, and I'm assuming the other planets are going to be pretty similar. Speaking of contracts, as I mentioned earlier, there are different crime syndicates that you can align yourself with. Basically, whenever you do, most quests will give you a choice at some point, and your choice will raise your reputation with one of the syndicates and lower it with another one. Right now, I've encountered the Pike Syndicate, the Crimson Dawn, and the Hutt Cartel. I've barely done anything for the Hutts so far, but I've done a lot of work for the Crimson Dawn, and even if I'm doing like a Crimson Dawn quest, sometimes the choice at the end will let me betray them and get more reputation with another syndicate. But the Crimson Dawn just sounds so cool, so I've pretty much been going all in with the Crimson Dawn, and I think I've just reached like the top tier reputation with them, which does mean that my reputation with the Pike Syndicate has suffered quite badly, and now I think if I enter any of their territory, they try and shoot me on sight. Speaking of entering territory and being shot on sight, most of your movement in the open world outside of the cities is done on the little land speeder that I mentioned. When you're on that land speeder, you can't aim your gun, you can't fire your gun or anything. You can only drive away and evade and like dodge side to side until your special power in the bottom right charges up. When it does, you enter like a bullet time kind of mode. I think like something like the Red Dead system, or was it McCree or whatever his new name is in Overwatch, where you can highlight up to 3 enemies, and then you know, left click to execute it, and you just take out all 3 of the enemies right away. This power charges pretty quickly when you're in like a high-speed chase and being shot by enemies, and it's also really satisfying. It feels good just to blast them away, and you really do just focus on driving pretty much. It's good fun. Your speeder also gets abilities. You have, I don't know if it's really a skill tree, but kind of a list of abilities you can unlock for various things. So that the speeder, at the end of my last session, I just unlocked a speed boost for it, and also a little jump. You can hold down space, and when you let go of space, you do a jump. And so you can do some pretty cool tricks and stuff. I think to unlock the jump ability, I had to be like airborne for 60 meters or something without crashing. So I just, you know, I didn't even know I had to do it, but I saw a ramp, I did a boost off it, did a really cool jump, and I landed, and I'd unlocked a new ability, and that was cool. In terms of combat, at the start of the game, you have a blaster pistol, I guess. You can upgrade your blaster pistol later on. You can choose to make it, you know, slower and more powerful, or you can make it faster and do less damage. And you also have an ion pistol, I guess, kind of like an energy pistol, You can use it to damage enemies or to like stun, shock enemies. For the most part, I haven't used that in combat. For the most part, I use the ion pistol for puzzle solving. You'll regularly come across like locked doors, and you have to look for an energy thing that's powering them, and you just shoot it with the ion cannon or ion gun, and it'll power up the door and unlock it for you. But you can also use it in combat if you want. I've just been mostly focusing on the blaster pistol. And those are the only guns that are permanent for you. I think there's a third one to unlock later, I just haven't got there yet. You also have grenades on you and stim packs to heal, basically. But you can't, run around all the time with like an assault rifle or something. Your main weapon is going to be a blaster pistol. You can, however, kill enemies and pick up their weapon temporarily. So if you kill a stormtrooper that's got an assault rifle or a blaster or whatever, you can pick that up and you can use it for a bit. You will drop it if you hop on your speeder, if you climb a ladder, if you do a lot of things. So they're very, very temporary, but they feel really cool to use. I think Star Wars blaster pistols are still fairly unique, or just Star Wars weapons in general are very unique. There's no lightsabers or anything in this game, but the pistols are cool. They sound like they do in the movies. It's pretty satisfying. So out in the open world, you can do combat pretty much however you want. However, most of the missions are very, very stealth focused. I didn't really know what to compare the game to until I started doing the stealth missions. And then I was like, oh, this is pretty much just the modern Assassin's Creed stealth stuff. It really made me think of Assassin's Creed Mirage. You literally hide in tall grass, you whistle to enemies, you can knock them out when they come close to you, you pick them off one by one, you often fail a mission for being discovered, or you get sent back to an earlier checkpoint if you're discovered. Some of the checkpoints are pretty far back, so it really, really does encourage very, very careful and tactical stealth gameplay. I think I would personally like a bit more of an option, like it's not the end of the world if you get caught. But yeah, there have been multiple missions where if an enemy raises an alarm or anything, then yeah, you failed the mission, you have to restart it from your last checkpoint. Usually the checkpoints are okay, but I have had a couple of missions where the checkpoint was like much earlier than I would have liked, and it was very frustrating for sure. You also have space ship combat. You can control your ship like freely in space. You can speed it up, you can slow it down. You can use left click to shoot enemies if there are enemies. You can tap the Q key twice, basically, to shoot a homing missile at enemies. If you hold down, basically, if you're just driving around with WASD, you can shoot with left click, but if an enemy like flies overhead, it can take quite a bit to maneuver yourself around to be aiming at them properly. What you can do is you can hold right click as if you're like aiming at them, and you'll sort of lock onto them, and your ship will be able to follow them much easier. Ship combat feels good, sometimes you look at a big, fairly unwieldy spaceship and you don't quite know how it's going to control. Feels good, there's lots of different speeds you can fly at, and yeah, the combat feels good, the flying feels good. I played this on PC and my performance has really been all over the place. Both of the cities on the first planet have been brutal for my FPS. I'll be running around like the market in Miragana, and I'll regularly drop down to mid-40s FPS, and it feels brutal. That's with DLSS on. I've tried all the different DLSS settings. There's quality, there's balance, and there's performance. Changing those doesn't seem to make a difference, although it does make it look a little bit worse, so I just have it on the quality preset. I tried tinkering with settings so much. Eventually I found all the settings that worked for me. I found them in a Game Rant article, I think. I just googled like Star Wars Outlaws 3080, optimized settings and found a good article about it. And I think maybe tweaked a couple of things just to make it work better for me. But yeah, there's only so much it can do. There's only so much my poor 3080 can do in these busy, crowded cities. Out in the open world is better, I think, because you move at such speed. The game's loading in a lot of stuff very quickly. So I'm always above 60 FPS when I'm out in the open world and driving around, but not too much over 60. But then when I'm in like a dungeon, I guess, kind of like an isolated area for a mission, man, I can be up at like 140 FPS. So it's, you know, it really is all over the place. I can literally see 100 FPS difference in different areas. Really, really good settings. It's a Ubisoft game. They always nail settings and accessibility and stuff like that. You can completely disable motion blur and chromatic aberration and film grain. Fantastic. You can get rid of depth of field, which is great. There's like 5 different accessibility screens and presets you can use. All sorts of stuff. You can really tailor the game to work how you want it to. Like, I was able to turn screen shake down to just like 1 out of 10 pretty much, which is great because I don't like too much screen shake. I won't talk too much about the settings because it's a Ubisoft game. Pretty much if you can think of a setting, it's there. So many options to try and tweak it to make it work for you. And like I said, I got it mostly working well. There's just a few areas that just I cannot get to run well at all. But I think, you know, more than half of the game, the majority of the game does run pretty well, and it still looks decent. There you go, those are my thoughts on Star Wars Outlaws after playing just under 7 hours. I think I'm at like 6 hours 45, something like that. It's really, really fun. It's surprisingly good. It's not really like a lot of things that Ubisoft have done, except for maybe the stealth-based stuff definitely makes me think of Assassin's Creed, but apart from that, there's no cell towers to climb to unlock your map. There's no outposts really that you have to raid and capture. It's not really like a Ubisoft game. It's very, very good. It's very, very different. Obviously, it's really expensive. I think Ubisoft games drop in price pretty quickly after launch. But like I said, like if you're not worried about owning your games, you can pick up a month of Ubisoft Plus for 20 bucks Canadian and play through the whole game in a month easily. So that's a pretty cool option if you're interested in it. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!